And here the issue is who accredits that kind of degree program. And with international degree programs with several countries involved and several national agencies involved, is it really realistic to just focus on the part of the course which is delivered in that country? And they really can't take, the national agency can't really look at what's happening in the other countries very successfully. And that's where an international accreditation agency steps in, because we can look across all the countries involved and we can produce a report which covers the viability of the whole degree program. There's also another issue that we're aware of, that some universities are the only agricultural university, inverted commas, taking a broad view of what happened in that country. So we can take Wageningen University in the Netherlands, might prefer, and it's been suggested to me it would prefer, to be compared with Boku in Austria or Copenhagen University in Denmark, rather than internally within its own country, with more basic science faculties in, say, Utrecht or whatever. So there's another reason why international accreditation may be a benefit. International accreditation should provide a quality stamp which would be attractive to students from third countries, from outside Europe. So that by having, you may have your own national agency stamp, but to have a stamp which says this is a good degree and is comparable with degree programs from other countries in Europe would be a marketing ploy for marketing your degree program. Just to explain the structure of EELS, was set up by the General Assembly of ICA. This is a governing body of EELS, and the General Assembly of ICA elects the board of EELS. The reason why we focused on the General Assembly of ICA, because we had to find a body which would guard and look over what EELS does. Normally, a national accreditation agency is responsible to the government in some way or other of that country. But for an international agency, that's not possible. So ICA, which represents more than 60 life science universities across Europe, is a natural body to oversee EELS. It's restricted in its responsibility. It can't interfere with the decisions of the EELS board on a degree program basis. All it can do is appoint the EELS board, and if it doesn't like what EELS is doing and gets, it can disband EELS, but it can't interfere with the decision-making process of the EELS board with respect to individual degree programs. If a university or a group of universities were concerned with the decision that the EELS board made, we could have a committee of appeal which can only look at whether the process was followed correctly, not whether the academic assessment was correct. We have auditors, and we have someone who's responsible for the day-to-day running of EELS, and that's myself. So what does EELS set out to do? The mission of EELS is to enhance the quality of degree programs and higher education institutions, because when we're looking at one degree program, we'll have the impact will be on other degree programs in the life sciences. And then we anticipate also that possibly we would accredit the institution or the faculty in the future rather than individual degree programs, because individual degree programs accreditation is quite expensive, and that's one of the complaints about accreditation in Europe as a whole, of the cost of it. And the UK, which is probably the first in the field ready to go down this route, very quickly moved from accreditation of degree programs to accreditation of institutions. Well, we don't actually in the UK accredit anything, but we have quality assurance and it's effective accreditation, but it's not accreditation in name. So we want to enhance the quality of degree programs through quality assurance and international accreditation. And we really have two aims: to award the EELS quality label to degree programs which have achieved the appropriate quality and standards in their educational provision. And secondly, to make recommendations on how that degree program could be enhanced. So it's not just a rubber stamping process. We want to suggest how a degree program might be enhanced by adopting different approaches or changes or whatever. All degree programs can be improved, even the best. You can always make suggestions of why don't you do this or why don't you do that. And so it's a discussion. But the first thing is a quality stamp, the EELS quality label, and the second is to suggest ways in which degree programs can be enhanced. So now I want to move on to the EELS peer review process. And this is the process that we would adopt for the local program. There are a number of steps here. The first is, and these are traditional quality assurance processes, so I'm sure you're familiar with this, where your degree programs have been accredited by a national agency. There's first of all a preliminary visit by the EELS Secretariat to discuss the process and establish a timetable. And that's what I did with Margaret in Belgrade. Then the two phases, that we would appoint a peer review panel, and I'll come to that later, and the degree program team would develop and submit a self-assessment report. This would be followed by a peer review visit by the panel that's been appointed to oversee the process. This would include 2 days of meetings, and the purpose is to validate the self-assessment report. So to actually check and see what's been written in the self-assessment report is actually true, because you may be more, you might criticise yourself too much, or you might gloss over some points which you really didn't want the panel to see. The chair of the peer review panel then submits a draft report to the programme coordinator to allow the programme coordinator to say, well, you've got these facts wrong. But we wouldn't change assessment. But if something is wrong in an interpretation, which is very easy in 2 days to overlook a whole degree programme, there is opportunity for misunderstanding to occur. When the corrections have been made, the final report would be submitted to the degree programme coordinator, and it would be submitted to the EELS board for accreditation with a recommendation of whether it should be accredited or not. So that's the basic process. Appointment of a peer review panel. The key to it is a self-assessment report prepared by the programme team, a review of that self-assessment report by meetings with staff, and any corrections are necessary, and then finalisation of the report. And I want to go through one or two of these steps in detail. First of all, the peer review panel. There would be a chair, and we're proposing that Andrew Cobb would be the chair of the peer review panel. He has Professor Andrew Cobb has experience in auditing in the UK. He's carried out several audits already for us under the EELS banner. He's well experienced in this area. We would appoint a quality assurance specialist and then 1 or 2 subject specialists, and Margaret was suggesting that we should have one in economics and one in the policy area. We would discuss with the programme team the selection of the subject specialists. So the programme team could suggest 3 or 4 people that they thought would be appropriate, or you thought would be appropriate for the economics area and the policy area, and then the EELS board will make the final selection. We will also include a student, because we want to look at it from a student's point of view, and our proposal is to involve the International Forestry Students Association in this. We've done that before with the International Agricultural Students Association, and then a secretary to the panel. So that's the basic structure of the peer review panel. The self-assessment report should be evidence-based. If you make statements how good the programme is, you've got to say why it's a good programme. It wants critical analysis and supporting statistical data, and that addresses general and specific indicators in each category of the EELS framework. And I'll come back to this EELS framework. But we have a number of benchmarks which you need to address in the self-assessment report. And the self-assessment report will identify current strengths and weaknesses. Well, there will be weaknesses and there will be strengths. And also opportunities for how you see you could enhance the degree programme, and other threats that might cause problems in the future to the degree programme. So it's based on a typical SWOT analysis approach to the self-assessment. Peer review visit. The panel will arrive and have a private meeting to discuss, because they won't have met before, to discuss their views about the degree programme. They will have filled in and submitted a report before coming to that meeting. So they will make their own assessment first of all, and then they will discuss it jointly on day one. In the evening we would have a social event with the program management team. So just to show that the panel aren't horrible people who want to find fault with the program. So with a friendly session on the first day in the evening, we found that very beneficial. And then on day two, we will meet with the Dean of the Faculty, Program Management Team, people who are responsible for the internal quality assurance of the degree program, representatives of students, academic tutors, and a non-academic support staff, and academic staff contributing to the degree program, but who are not part of the management team. So we want to look, see, and speak to and discuss with everybody who's involved in the delivery of the degree program at all levels. And what we're trying to do is to find out whether you're singing